So, as Russian and U.S. officials meet in Saudi Arabia without Kiev and without Ukraine, European officials also meet without Ukraine. This is the meeting of the Europeans to discuss Ukrainian security. And it's becoming clear that Zelenskyy and Ukraine are going to be told what's going to happen. They're not going to be given a whole heck of a lot of choice. And that's unfortunate in many ways, but this is how it has shaken out. That said, there's going to be a deeper story that emerges from this. And we're going to kind of go into that a little bit here. Obviously, U.S. and Russian officials have met, and there's a basic understanding of principles and acceptance of the other side's positions. So negotiations can actually occur. This is a good positive step. As the United States and Russia speak, Europe debates sending troops to Ukraine. European countries are figuring out what role they are willing to play in any peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. And this goes through some of the positions of the Europeans. Right here, reported that European nations could contribute upwards of 30,000 troops who would not be stationed along the contact line but would stand ready as a show of force if Russia threatens to restart the war. Okay. Keir Starmer. Sweden and Netherlands were more vague about offering to send forces. Sweden said it would not rule out sending troops to Ukraine if necessary, while the Netherlands is not negative about sending troops to Ukraine. Warsaw does not foresee Polish soldiers sent to Ukraine, he told reporters before boarding a flight to Paris. Nobody is considering sending troops to Ukraine, said Jose Manuel Albreyes, Spain's foreign minister. So what we see here is the European members of NATO are not going to be able to come around as individual nations. And they're not going to be able to come up with the force necessary. So surprisingly, the one who came up with the actual solution that I think is going to happen and is going to be as big as the actual peace story itself is Zelenskyy, who came out and called for a European army. There have been rumors of this for years, that preliminary steps had been taken in European capitals toward the creation of a European army. Now, when you're talking about a non-NATO mission, no U.S. troops involved, all European, you're not going to get Indian forces, troops, you're not going to get Japanese, you're not going to get other countries from other continents to put their troops in harm's way. And you're not going to get this piecemeal force to happen from this country contributes this country contributes that. The only practical solution, as unreal as it is to say, is, as Zelenskyy points out, a European army. Now, this is The Guardian, so you can see their bias right here with this sentence right here. Zelenskyy calls for a European army as Germany hits back at U.S. over Vance tirade. If you watched that speech, it was not a tirade. They clearly don't understand what the word means at The Guardian. Left-wing hacks, I'm sure. This is a timeline that it goes through of the Europeans Conference. They say the Americans have provided the Europeans with a questionnaire on what would be possible. France is in discussion with its allies over the idea of holding an informal summit of European leaders to discuss Ukraine. Donald Trump's administration has proposed that the U.S. be given 50% of the war-torn country's rare earth minerals. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said on Friday that the rare earth mineral deal proposed by the United States did not contain security provisions which Ukraine needed. Senior officials from the United States and Russia are meeting next week at Saudi Arabia to pave the way for a potential leaders' summit as soon as the end of the month to discussing the end of the war in Ukraine, according to people familiar with the matter. As we know, that meeting was accelerated, and it was today. Rubio met with Lavrov today in Riyadh, and the meeting apparently was very short, very quick. There's a basic understanding. Moving forward seems very possible, and it looks like the president and Putin will be meeting very soon. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has shot back strongly in defense of his stance against the far right, and said his country will not accept people who intervene in our democracy, a day after U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance scolded European leaders over their approach to democracy. Scholz said, "Free speech in Europe means that you are not attacking others in ways that are against legislation and laws in our country." Freedom, baby. Let freedom ring. Scholz said on Saturday that the war between Ukraine and Russia would only truly end with peace and Ukrainian sovereignty is secured. It can be secured. It's just going to be missing a couple of oblasts. And this is the most relevant. And I think he makes the solid point. The Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, told the Munich Security Conference on Saturday that the time had come for a European army to be created. "Our army alone is not enough. We need your support," he said, adding that the old days when the U.S. supported Europe just because it always had are over. He's right. If the president has shown one thing, it's that this is now a transactional relationship. In that, what can you do for me? If you can do for me, I can do for you. If you can't do for me, well... He also told leaders and officials that he would not take NATO membership for Ukraine off the table, insisted that no discussions should be taken on ending Russia's war without Kiev or Europe. And, of course, Ukraine needs to agree. They need to agree to certain stipulations that they're not going to like. So is Russia. Russia has said that those oblasts had all voted to become part of Russia. It's clear that by the time there is a ceasefire, not all of those oblasts will be in Russian hands. So Russia is also going to have to take some things they don't want. They're not going to get the part of Zaporizhia that's on the other side of the Dnipro River. They're not going to get the part of Kherson on the other part of the side of the Dnipro River. It's not going to happen. And if you're the Ukrainians, why would you let that? You're not going to give them a bridgehead on your side of the river. Are you kidding me? How strategically stupid would that be? So both sides are going to get things they don't like. But I think that statement right there, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy told the Munich Security Conference on Saturday that it was time has come for a European army to be created. And I think that is the only way they get around any NATO aspect of this. This is also how you, instead of having piecemeal units coming from country to country, if you are truly one country, and the EU says they are, then you mandate an EU army with certain percentages of recruits from each country that has to be met. It will take time for that army to form. Years. But that foregoes the NATO aspect of it. No U.S. troops required. Satisfies the aspect for Ukraine to have a European buffer between them and Russia. And for Russia, it satisfies the no NATO aspect of what you're calling for, and no U.S. troops. It's not ideal for either side. But again, neither side is going to get everything they want. We see the groundwork has been laid. The groundwork has been laid, and I think that as a result, we will have a ceasefire in the end. There will be peace in Ukraine. It will not be ideal for either side. And out of that, out of the war in Ukraine, will come an EU army. Born of every country on the continent, but the birth of a European Union army, I believe, is at hand. Whether it was stated at this meeting or not is frankly irrelevant. But what you're looking at is the start of a European Union army. If they don't, and they fail in this task, the European Union itself will flounder and fail. I hope you appreciate me bringing this to you. I had fun bringing it to you. Again, it's just my thought, but I think there's going to be a European army coming out of here. And it may be the more historic thing out of it than the actual war itself. But thank you. I really appreciate you swinging in here and listening. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share the channel. And I will catch you next time. Thank you.